Hi everyone. A couple of weeks ago I put a post on my Facebook asking for any questions so that I could do a Q&A video. Got some questions here. Let's do it. So first question is from Tom Hyatt. He asks, best and most effective times to consume BCAAs and creatine. Neither of these products I use year round. I use BCAAs from time to time, don't use creatine at all, just because I feel I don't respond to it. Some people do, some people don't. If you feel like you're getting a benefit from it, go for it, use it. A lot of people do. Studies to prove that it works, but some people, just like anything, don't respond to it, and I don't respond to it. I don't feel any effects, so I don't use it. BCAAs I use sometimes. A lot of people like to use them when they're cutting or pre-contest, during cardio, because they feel like it's going to preserve muscle tissue. If they do too much cardio, it's going to burn through the muscle tissue. But if you think about it, if you're sipping on BCAA drink while you're on the treadmill, you're using that BCAA as an instant fuel source. So rather than burning body fat, which should be, you're burning through the energy you're giving your body directly through the BCAA. So don't buy into that either. But times to use them. So creatine, best time to use it. A lot of people use it pre-workout. If I was to use it, I'd use it post-workout and put it straight in my post-workout drink, which would be a whey protein isolate with fast-acting carbohydrate like dextrose. And because both of these ingredients, fast-acting, they get into your bloodstream and the muscle quick. Throw the glutamine. You can throw glutamine in there as well. That's what I do. But throw your creatine in there, and it will get absorbed nice and quick where you want it in the muscle. So that's probably the best way to do it, rather than pre-workout, just because you get the extra absorption benefits. In terms of BCAAs, intra-workout is probably best to use BCAAs. Another thing a lot of people like to do these days is get these big gallon jugs and fill them up with BCAAs and sipping it all day. If you're eating a lot of protein, which you should be if you're trying to build muscle anyway, upwards. Some people eat 300 to 400 grams of protein. I'm about 350 to 380 at the moment grams of protein. You don't need to be sipping on BCAAs all day. You've got plenty of amino acids coming through your system, split up into however many meals, 6 to 8 meals. You don't need to be sipping on BCAAs all day. All you're going to do is stress out your kidneys, so you don't need it all day. Intra-workout, makes sense. If you're going to take it at any time of the day, probably be intra-workout, just to boost the repair process when you finish the workout and whatnot. But honestly, neither of these products I think are essential. If you feel like you benefit from them, use them, and use them at those times. Okay, next question we got is from Jamie Lester. He asks, when are you competing next? Now, I haven't done a video in a while. The last time I made any videos was when I did my first contest back in 2015, and then shortly after that I got injured, tore my rotator cuff, and then had about 3.5 months off training, and then a couple of weeks back into training after that, I tore my pec. I only tore my pec a little bit, and that was just away from the shoulder, just a few fibres, so that only took a few weeks to repair, luckily. But yeah, the rotator cuff was a big one, and actually I didn't do that at the gym at all. I was just on holiday swimming, and it went, and that was it. So you can't really predict these things. You've got to get injured if you're training heavy weights. I'm sure there was some sort of nagging there before that didn't help, from heavy bench presses and whatnot. So but yeah, so I was going to compete this year, but seeing that I had so much time off, it was about 3.5, 4 months in the end, I don't feel like I've made any progress enough to compete, and I could diet down now and do a show, but I'd rather wait till next year, progress from now until then, and then see a better package between 2015 and 2017, rather than see the same sort of thing. I can improve my condition, but I'd rather put on some more tissue, which is what I need to do since I'm so tall, spread out over a tall frame on a 6'2". so I need to put on a lot more muscle mass. So what I'm going to do is, well, the plan is to compete next year, do a British qualifying show to start with, hopefully, fingers crossed, qualify for the British with that. If I don't, I'll do another qualifying show, hopefully a couple of weeks after, so I'm still in shape and can maintain it, and then obviously, hopefully if I haven't qualified from that one, and be on the British stage, which is the goal, to be on the British stage next year, British Championships, UK BFF, that is. But yeah, if I don't qualify in those two shows, I'm not going to do any more. But yeah, I'll do at least 2 shows next year, hopefully, if everything goes to plan. A qualifier and then the British, or the 2 qualifiers and then the British, or the 2 qualifiers and not the British, if that's the case. So yeah, hope that answers your question. I know it's a bit of a complicated answer for a short question, but okay. Next question is general sort of health question from Megan Pigeon. Any tips on what foods to eat for more energy? So in terms of energy, your body's going to use 2 macronutrients. You've got carbohydrates and you've got fats. Okay, carbohydrates convert into glucose. That's your main source of energy. If you're on a low carbohydrate diet, your body will use fat more, whether it's body fat or dietary fat. But I'm assuming that you eat like a regular person and consume a lot, moderate to high amount of carbohydrates in your diet. So best thing to do is, honest advice, never skip breakfast. Don't skip breakfast. Make breakfast number 1 priority, and make it your best meal of the day. It's going to set you up for the day. As soon as you wake up, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need, but don't start, get ready, go downstairs or whatever it is and eat your breakfast. Have a slow digesting carbohydrate like oats, something that's gonna be sustainable throughout the day, rather than fast acting carbohydrate like cereal, which has got a lot of sugar in, and it's going to hit you fast and give you some energy, and then you're going to drop down. Oats are number 1 at the start of the day. I always start the day off with oats. You can slam oats in the yogurt. You can put it in a protein shake if you need to. Make up some porridge with some berries or whatever. Oats are great. Oats are number 1. Okay. But yeah, slow digesting carbohydrates is what you want at the start of the day. It's going to really set you up. Do it for a few weeks if you're not doing that, and you'll definitely see a difference in your energy levels. Okay, another sort of general health diet question from Carly Ward. Is very low / no carb the best diet for losing weight and toning up? Okay, so it's quite a general question. Assume you're not doing anything as drastic as like a bodybuilding diet. But yeah, carbohydrates are what causes, primarily what causes fat gain. So ingesting carbohydrates is going to release insulin. The faster digesting carbohydrates obviously release more insulin, like sugar, and insulin is the fat storage hormone. So it can be beneficial for bodybuilders because insulin can help drive the carbohydrates into the muscle. If you're not training hard, or you're not training at all, it's going to go to your fat stores. So while a moderate amount of carbohydrates is good in a diet, don't go overboard. Most people's diets are like 80% carbs, which isn't ideal, especially if you're trying to lose fat. So while I wouldn't say for someone who isn't competing, do a no carb approach, a 0 carb approach, which can be an option if you're competing. It's quite drastic. You can look into something like a ketogenic diet, and you have to be on top of your fats as well. If you cut your carbohydrates right down, you have to be ingesting some fat. It can't just be a protein based diet, because you will have no energy, you'll feel like crap. I've done it before. It's not good. It sounds good on paper because you're just eating protein, you're eliminating carbs, you're eliminating fats, but it doesn't really work. Your body's going to slow right down and not end up burning much fat after that anyway. So best thing to do is look at what you're eating over a week, eat the same thing every day for that week, and make it as similar to your current diet as you can. And then the next week, take your carbohydrates down by 10 to 20%. Do that for a couple of weeks, see how much weight you've lost. If you haven't lost very much, take it down by another 10 to 20%. If you feel like you're losing enough, keep it at that same rate until it slows down, and then take it down by 10 to 20%. And then, eventually you'll probably get to a level where you're sort of 50 to 60% carbohydrates down. You do it over a long time, you won't feel like you're losing energy, or you won't feel hungry as much. So yeah, slow the process down over a couple of months, and that's probably the best way to do it. Okay, next question is from my fiancée, Rosie Rushton. She's asked, what made you want to be a bodybuilder? Was there one moment that specifically made you decide, or was it something that you had always aspired to be? I definitely hadn't always aspired to be a bodybuilder. Genetically, I'm supposed to be quite skinny. I always was as a kid. And I never really thought about it. You don't really when you're a kid, or most kids don't think about it. And then when I was about 15, 16, my mum started making comments like, "You're too skinny, are you eating, Ellis?" And I was like, yeah, I'm eating. And I was. And then she took me to the doctors and asked him if he thought I was anorexic, and did some we weighed me and stuff, and he was like, no, he's just really, really skinny. And I was really, really skinny. And we're talking to you now, Rosie. You used to call me skinny, and and I started looking at myself and thinking, wow, yeah, I am pretty skinny. I should probably do something about it. So after I got my first little job when I was about 16, 17, I bought a little weight set. I did some dumbbells, and I just did some. I didn't really know what I was doing. Did some curls and did some like floor presses, stuff like that. Some rows and some goblet squats. And brother had a bench press, and I started using that. And then I built up, and I actually had quite a lot of equipment. I had an Olympic bar, I had like 150 kilos worth of weight. And I was doing that for a while, and then I decided, the floorboard's going to give soon, so joined the gym, and I went from there. And then in terms of competing, quite early on, I was got serious about training and diet and stuff, but I didn't really think about competing. I just didn't want to be skinny anymore, really. So I put on some a little bit of size. I first started thinking about competing when I was ill. I had food poisoning, and I was in bed for like a week, and I felt horrible, and I just was watching like bodybuilding documentaries and stuff, and listening to Led Zeppelin, but I couldn't train, and it was really frustrating me because I had never really had time of training before, and I realised how much I enjoyed it then. And I watched Pump and Iron about 4 times that week, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it next year, and I did. And that was last year. I did my first show, and like I said, next year I'm going to do another 1 or 2. Hopefully be on the British stage, and that's how it all started. Okay, another question from Lani Hamilton. She asks, how do you find the motivation to carry on days where you really cannot be bothered? Okay, so a lot of this can be a sort of individual thing, a personality thing. A lot of people aren't motivated to train and stuff. I think once you get into it and you make it part of your routine, and you've been doing it for a few months, it becomes a part of your life, and that helps. In terms of motivating yourself to start, look at where you are now and imagine your ideal. Imagine where you want to be, okay? Imagine, in a year, what can I do in a year to better myself, to be healthier, to feel better, to have a better body, to look better. What can I do in a year? Think about it and set yourself a goal. It doesn't have to be a very specific goal. It doesn't have to be I want to lose 2 stone. It doesn't mean for bodybuilders I want to gain 2 stone, because you don't know, especially when you're starting out. You have no idea what you're going to be capable of. But think to yourself, about where you want to be and pluck away at it every day, just a little bit. Start small, pluck away at it every day, and like I say, once you get into the routine of it, it's going to be part of what you do. Just give yourself a kick up the arse. Look, if you want something, do it. No one's going to make you do it. No one's going to ask you to do it. It's up to you. Everything is up to you. If you're not happy with where you are, change something. It's not rocket science, but I know it's difficult to motivate yourself. I know some people, time isn't a great excuse. Everyone has the same amount of time, but people do work longer hours than other people. People have multiple jobs and stuff like that, so it can be difficult. But just find some time, even if it's half an hour a day. Change just little things about your diet or something like that. If it is exercise you're talking about, you're gonna have days where you're down. You're gonna have days where you don't feel it, and just think about in those days where you started, where you want to be, and where you are now, and what you have to do to get to where you want to be. That's how I motivate myself. I'm pretty self-motivated, to be honest. I have a very clear goal in mind. I know where I want to be. I know what I have to do to reach that goal. And I feel really guilty if I don't do one of those things. If I miss a meal, even if I miss a meal by half an hour, if I'm like half an hour late to a meal, I'm like, oh God, I've got to do everything to push back half an hour for the day. It's not ideal. That's just me. I hope that's helped. Okay, a couple more questions. William Bushell asks, I went to Subway today and asked for light mayo. Does this class me as healthy? Yeah, if you feel like that classes you as healthy, that's great. Personally, I wouldn't go for light mayo. I wouldn't go for mayo at all. I wouldn't go to Subway at all. But it's up to you. Step up from McDonald's. Anyway, that's all for the questions. If anybody has any questions, send me an email or something, ewquarterman@gmail.com, put Q&A in the subject, ask a question, and then maybe I'll do another video, maybe I'll put another Facebook post up in a few weeks, couple of months, and see. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you learned something, hope you take something away, and I'll speak to you soon.